Good evening, good evening. So today's shir is going to focus on the Siddur. And the Siddur is the most important sefer that we'll ever own, besides obviously the Tanakh. The Siddur is not just what we learn, it's what we turn to 3 times a day, and it's a tool that Anshe Knesset HaGdolah have given us to connect through it to the Eibishter in all stages in our life. But what I'm going to do today in this shir specifically is unpack and, so to speak, strip away the Siddur and see how the Tefillah came together. It's important because when we understand the structure and how Chachamim added slowly to the skeleton, so to speak, to the backbone of davening, we'll understand where they were heading with davening, which mitzvahs were mekayim with davening. So be'etzem, the deiraisa of davening is turning to the Eibishter with all your needs when you need it. And be'etzem, therefore, zmanei atfilah are not min ha'torah, it's midrabanon. Min ha'torah is to turn to the Eibishter, v'vatem es Hashem Elokechem b'chol levavchem, is avodah shebelev zu tefillah, to turn to the Eibishter when you need. And not only that, that exists also today. That deiraisa exists. There's the Alter Rebbe quotes from the Arizal that a person should turn to the Eibishter when he needs. And then there is the Matbeya Shetavu Chachamim, which has come, the Nusach of Shemoneh Esrei is much later. Nusach of Shemoneh Esrei was Nistaken through Anshe Knesset HaGdolah, was 18, turned to 19. But we see that it was already around earlier. There's we find 18 Lashonis of what was it in Ashrei already. David HaMelech turns to the Eibishter with 18 Lashonis of Tefillah. So be'etzem the yisoid of Tefillah is Shemoneh Esrei is Bakashas Tzrachav, and that's what it is. But before you daven to the king, Chachamim were metaken. There should be Dalef Neimiyat Ha'omed, and therefore Chachamim established Psuki de Zimra. They put a bracha before and after. Psuki de Zimra is psukim of song, of praise, where we marvel through the words of David HaMelech, but it has to be our own words, obviously, at the way the Eibishter created the world, and what we have gifted to us by the Eibishter. And that is a preparation at the Dalef Neimiyat Ha'omed before Shemoneh Esrei. So there should have been Psuki de Zimra and then Shemoneh Esrei. Psuki de Zimra was Nistaken much later, and initially it was not even Nistaken as Choiva. Chachamim, however, instituted Smichas Geula L'Tfilah. There's a whole different story. There's a story called Kriya Shema, which is a Deiraisa. Mitzvah say Deiraisa. That V'hayu Advarim Eila Shenechem Tzav Chaim Al L'Vacha V'Dibarta Bo. You should say these words, B'shach B'cho V'kumecha. The mitzvah say Deiraisa of saying Kriya Shema in the morning and at night. And Chachamim prepared and were metaken brachas l'fanah and achara. And according to many opinions, like the Rambam, the brachas before and after Kriya Shema, even though that's in the brachas are the Rabbanon, that's why generally Safik brachas lahakel, because it's the Rabbanon. The only Yitzim min haklal is the clear pasuk v'chalta v'savata v'rachta, that Birkas Hamazon is min haTorah. Therefore, if you have a Safik, if you benched Birkas Hamazon, you have to go back. But all other brachas are the Rabbanon. Birkas Kriya Shema get the level of a Deiraisa because they were nismach on Kriya Shema, and that has nothing be'etzem to do with davening, theoretically. But after Chamor Metak and Birkas Kriya Shema, they instituted to be Soimach Geula L'Tfilah, that the bracha after Kriya Shema, Gal Yisrael, should be right near Tfilah. Should daven for it, and therefore we have the breakdown of Psuki de Zimra, which is Dalef Neimiyat Ha'omed, Birkas Kriya Shema, which surround the mitzvah of Kriya Shema itself, which maybe we'll discuss the essence of that mitzvah in a minute, and the brachas Shulchan Aruch that Chachamim instituted should become mamish mein d'oraisa, have to be smichas gula l'tefillah, have to come right before Shemona Esrei. Shemona Esrei is the backbone of davening. Now, I'll take a moment just to discuss the Kriya Shema itself, to unpack Kriya Shema. Kriya Shema is the first parsha is Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shamayim, accepting the yoke of heaven, and in the most practical words, I'm not even talking yet about Chassidus layer of davening, which is Avodah Shebelev. The most practical halachic definition of Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shamayim is saying Hashem Echad, understanding that there's nothing but Hashem. Achdus Hashem, that is Hashem Echad, there's one God. And then there is V'hoyim Shemaya, which is Kabbalah's oil mitzvahs, accepting V'im Shemaya Tishmo Mitzvah Asher Nechem Mitzvah Eschem Hayom La'avos Hashem Lekechem, accepting the yoke of mitzvahs. That means not only the Eibishter as the Eibishter, but his mitzvahs. And then there is Parsha Shlishis, which essentially discusses the mitzvah of tzitzis, but we are mekayim with it also the mitzvah of Yetzias Mitzrayim. And that's why we say Parshas Vayomer, like we say in the Agada, Ben Zayma Omer, Miyamad HaZachis L'havin, Ishtiyam Yetzias Mitzrayim Baleilos. To understand why we have to say Parshas Vayomer, L'chur Mitzvah Tzitzis is Re'isam Oisoi, and Laila loves man tzitzis. You don't see tzitzis, that's not the time. Re'isam Oisoi is Chartem, and therefore Laila loves man tzitzis. So why do we say the third Parsha? So he was Ad Shedrasha Ben Zayma, that Kol Yimei Chayach Alavi Aleilis, that by night you also have to remember Yetzias Mitzrayim, and that's why we have the Parsha Vayomer. So that's in the third Parsha is the mitzvah of Schiras Yetzias Mitzrayim, and these three, they're masmich with Geula and Tefillah, etc. Once we understand this is mamish the general streak, this is how davening was built. I want to take a few moments to explain what are the ikar parts of davening that Chachamim demand that need to be said. And interestingly enough, you know where these halachas come from. These halachas, we can find them when a person skips. If a person comes late to shul, there's halachas of what he's allowed to skip in order to start Shemoneh Esrei with a minyan. Davening with a minyan, its definition is starting Shemoneh Esrei together. That's where the minyan is. If you missed Shemoneh Esrei with the tzibur, betzim, you didn't daven with a minyan. We want to say Dvarim Shebekdusha, Kaddish, Kedusha, and Baruch Hu. So the Kaddish on Psukei de Zimra, when we conclude Yishtabach, we say with Ba'asara, after they praise the Eibishter. But Be'etzem, that in Inyan is not mamish connected to the minyan. The minyan starts Shemoneh Esrei. That's when they start. If you want to say Davar Shebekdusha, say Kaddish and Kedusha, Kaddish and Baruch Hu, you say that. If a person comes late, his main concern Be'etzem is to daven with a minyan. So in Shulchan Aruch and Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, there's a whole section of what you can skip. Minig Lubavitch is not to skip, and this is our minig mikadmas to know not to skip around in davening, but it's still very relevant to know these halachas. Why? Because when you'll hear what you skip, you'll all of a sudden discover what the ikar of davening is. And the ikar of davening is when a person, if you have enough time to say part of Psukei de Zimra, what is the bare minimum of Psukei de Zimra? Is say Baruch Sha'amar, which is the bracha before, Piska de Nachas min Shmaya, 87 words that came down on a zettel from heaven when Anshe Knesset Agdelu were attacking it with the remez of Rosh Kesem Paz. The bracha before, the bracha of Yishtabach Shimcha Lad Malkeinu, Hakel is Shloima Melch was metaken, and Melch Mo'ol Bat Tishbach is the end is through Avram Avinu. Very interesting. Yishtabach and so if you're saying Psukei de Zimra, you start with Baruch Shamar and obviously Yishtabach. But what's the meat of the middle? What is the bare minimum? Ashrei. Tehillah LeDavid the Gemara asks, what's the godless of Tehillah David? We have many. I'm saying. So they say it was nistaken on the Aleph base. Good, it was nistaken on Aleph base, but from Aleph Ataf. But what's the greatness? So it says, because it has the pasuk of Peseachas Yodecha. That Shevach takes the cake. David HaMelech was metaken. You see already from David HaMelech that this was the ikar of Tefillah. So the ikar is Ashrei, to the extent that if you missed Kavanah by Peseachas Yodecha, you have to say it again. It's Likuvah. You go weiter, you have to say this pasuk in Psukei de Zimra, obviously, right? Because that's the middle of Psukei de Zimra. It's the heart of Psukei de Zimra. So I mentioned earlier that they were already mitakin 18. It was the 18 brachas of Birkas HaShachar. We'll get them. So the bare minimum of Psukei de Zimra is Peseachas Yodecha. And that Alter Rebbe brings in Shulchan Aruch also that it's Likuvah. The second most important is obviously Shema and Baruch Shem, and the first bracha of Shemoneh Esrei. First bracha, at least Alter Rebbe brings us. If you want to have Al Kapanim, the bracha of Avos, to have the Kavanah, or Schus Avos. If you have more time, he says which halalukas to say. Haluk Kel Bekacher is Kapitel Kuf Nun, and Haluk Bamraim, Haluk Kamalach, Haluk Kol Tzvav. Again, it's important for us to know what do you say, the descriptions of David HaMelech praising, with which Kalim we praise the Eibishter, with everything we have, Al Kol Neshama, Al Kol Neshima, Neshima, and Haluk Kamalach, Haluk Kol Tzvav, Haluk Kol, right, it finishes over there, right, everybody. Having said that, I mean that it says when it says Amar Rabbi Yossi Yehei Chelki Migoimrei Halal B'chol Yom is referring to Kuf Nun, and you could already see Kuf Mem Ches describing the creation of the world. That's what we thank the Eibishter. Now. It says about Agav also about Ashrei that anyone that says Tilul David B'chol Yom 3 times is Ben Olam Haba. So we see the importance of Ashrei. Now, once we understand and we have down pat these yisoidus of davening, then the next thing is that. The reason for Shema Agav being so important is because mitzvahs tzrichas kavana. There's an opinion that mitzvahs need have kavana, and the most important kavana that the Eibishter gave us a mitzvah of Kriya Shema is by the first pasuk. So that part has to have you have to have kavana for that part. Now, once we said that, the next most important is to have kavana by brachas. To have kavana when you say Baruch Atah Hashem, right? That to be able, when you say the bracha, those are the most important. And when you say a bracha, the most important part of a bracha is Baruch Shem and Malchus. Baruch Shem and Malchus and the Inyan bracha. So Baruch Atah Hashem, Baruch, understanding that you're benching the Eibishter, then Hashem, the Eibishter's name, and Malchus, the fact that he's a king, and Bayrim Mizonos, for example. That's the yesod of any bracha. So once you covered the chiyuv of Krishma, and you covered Shemoneh Esrei, right, and the chiyuv of Psukei de Zimra, which is Peseachas Yodecha, the next important part is brachas. And another place where you see these dinim are by interestingly enough, are by Tfilas Nashim. They're also by there. They strip it down to the bare minimum. If a lady doesn't have time, so it's going to say Birkas HaShachar, and if you have time, so Baruch Sha'amar, Ashrei, and Yishtabach, Birkas Krishma, or Al Kapanim Kriya Shema, the Deiraisa, and Shemoneh Esrei. What it's going to add after that, we started saying Birkas HaShachar because brachas is important, and in addition, The Alter Rebbe adds, because tefillah is connected karbanas tiknum, that women should also daven, and this is important for us, because davening represents karbanas, we should also say bekavana, and women should also say karban tam shel shachar and k'toiras. Skarbani lachmi liyishay reach nechayich tishmu lakli. Skav zavatas babikos, skav zashin zasabin arbaim. Davening is connected karbanas. So these parts of davening are critical. Okay, now that we explained all this, I mean, there's the 18 brachas in the morning. Chachamim Matakin, you see already, they were Matakin at the Gizmana Gemara. It's already described that when they would get up, they would say they would get up, they put their feet on the ground, they say Rekal Arth Al Moyim. Everything that they did, they thanked the Eibishter. And the Arizal already writes that in our Zmana Gemara, I guess their hands were able to Alpi Nigla to guard their hands to stay naki. The Arizal is very machmer about saying Shem Hashem with tum on the hands or without washing your hands. They were metakin. It's much later. They were metakin at the time of the Arizal, the tefillah of Moed Ani, which is Al Shem Elikai Neshama, but just without the Eibishter's name. I want to now take a few moments to discuss another very important set of halachas, which is Dinei Hefsek B'Tefillah. How does this come in? Once we understand the build of Tefillah, now we'll be able to understand at what point you're allowed to stop to answer, at what point you're not allowed to stop, and at which points, even if you're allowed to stop, for what are you allowed to stop? So I'm going to group them in based on a grouping that was very, very powerful grouping done by Rabbi Yoav Lemberg. Beautiful, beautiful job in a Sefer Hefsek B'Tefillah. Beautiful, beautiful job. And once we understood the intro till here, this should flow. First, I'm going to introduce. There's two parts. There's where the person davening is holding, and there's where the chazan that he's answering, responding to, is holding. So there's the place where if you're in these specific part of davening that I'm about to list, is considered so chamor, you don't stop for anything. And again, given the introduction we gave till now, it should be very straightforward. Brachas Aktsaris, we said, talking to the Eibishter directly, the bracha is you don't stop. Any bracha. If you're middle Birkas HaShachar, you started a bracha, Baruch Hashem, you finished. You don't stop for anything. Kaddish, Kedusha, Baruch Hu, nothing. And the same deal is with brachas arukos. In the bracha at the beginning, at the end, you never stop. Another place you never stop is in the middle of Shemoneh Esrei. If you're in the middle of Shemoneh Esrei, never stop for anything. Another place that you never stop is between bracha la'asiyah. If you made a bracha, al netilas lulav, you take the lulav. That's it. You can't stop between them. Shmaya kol sefer, you can't. No hefsek. We mentioned before ben geula l'tefillah. We don't make any hefsek. Gal Yisrael, it's not even considered like in middle of Birkas Krishma or middle of Krishma. It's not bein haprakim. It's mamish. There is no hefsek. Same deal is between Shema and Vahafta. It means between Shema and Baruch Shem, and between Baruch Shem and Vahafta. No hafsakas over there. And interestingly enough, also by Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Yimlech Leilam Vayed, anything touching the Eibishter's Malchus, you don't stop for anything over there. So these are a part of davening that you never stop. Again, bin geula l'tefillah, in middle of tefillah of Shemoneh Esrei, between Shema and Vahafta, in the middle of brachas ktsaros, between a mitzvah and asiyasan, between in the beginning or the end of even brachas arukas, that's like a bracha ktsara. Between Hashem Malach, Hashem Melech, Hashem Yimlech Levad, and the final deraisa is in Birkas Hamazon. Can't stop for anything. Hallel, Hallel, yeah. Hallel is first of all, Hallel, when it's called a deraisa, it's on its own a question. But even not, it's long. It's like a bracha aruka. And we'll soon see that in middle of brachas arukos, there are things that we stop for. So, what I just mentioned, the makam chamor, over there you don't stop for anything. Now I'm going to mention things that when the chazan says them, they're very lenient because they're dvarim shebeminhag. They're not a choiva, and therefore we never stop for them. Once you started Baruch Shamar, either you're before davening or after davening. In the middle of davening, you don't stop for them. What are minhagim? Baruch Hu Baruch Shmoi is a minhag, right? Wasn't this in Gemara? The Brich Shmei, V'zois HaBracha, by the Torah. V'zois HaTorah, yeah. Yud Gimel Midas, to respond. When you come into a shul, you hear them saying Hashem Hashem Karacham V'chanon. For you to say that is a minhag for you to join. There's a minhag when you come in, you hear the call saying Aleinu, you say Aleinu with them. Mm-hmm. That's a minhag. To say Ashrei with the tzibur also, you're meant to say Tilal David with them. If you come into shul, you hear them saying Tilal David. These are all minhagim that are wonderful, or a little bit of the Rebbe's Achidish, the amains of Kaddish the Rabbanon and Yisrael Rabban Bal Tamidein. All those amains are not you don't stop for that. Amen of Yalav Yavai, amen of a Shliach Tzibur's Birkas Koyanim. You don't stop for that. And Hashava Shalom in today's day and age, if someone says Shalom Aleichem, Aleichem Shalom, throughout Psuki de Zimra, all the way through Shemoneh Esrei, you never stop. These are all Dvarim Shebeminhag. Now, so those are the two extremes. Things that you never stop for them, and a place where you will never stop, period. Now, I'll give you the middle ground. The middle ground is a place where it's hard to stop. Hard to stop is Krishma B'Chaisel. Krishma B'Chaisel, in the middle of Krishma and the Brachas, and we'll soon bring examples that are similar to that. Another example that's similar to that is between Shal Yad and Shal Rosh, that you make a Laniach Tefillin and you want the bracha to go on both of them. It's schwer to make a hefsek in the middle. Over here, you make a hefsek only. Listen closely. I'm just going to bring two levels: things that are hard, places that are hard to stop, and places that are easy to stop. Hard to stop is Krishma B'Chaisel, and some things that are similar. Easy to stop are in middle of Psuki de Zimra. Why is it easier to stop? Because most of the things that you'll answer are in context of Psuki de Zimra. If you're answering Amen on all the brachas that people make, it's part of giving Shavach to the Eibishter. So in Psuki de Zimra it fits. Birkas Krishma doesn't. It has to really fit. So in middle of Birkas Krishma, what do we stop for? We stop for Dvarim Shebekdusha. Dvarim Shebekdusha, I'll give you an example, are things that you can only say with a minyan. It means that once the minyan is together, there's the Eibishter is there, and you say it. So, Amen Yehi Shmei Rabba, you'll stop for in Birkas Krishma. The Amen of Da'amirin Ba'alma. When the Chazan turns around, doesn't turn around, but figuratively turns to the crowd and says, the Imru Amen, that's one place you say that Amen. You say Amen on Ikari Shemoneh Esrei. For example, on Shemei Tefillah and Hakel HaKadosh, those two Amens. If the Chazan starts Nakdishach, which is also Davar Shebekdusha, you only say the Psukim, not the whole drasha before. Nakdishach, Menaritzach, V'Nekanem, Siyasayt, Safi Kodesh, Hamshalom, Chakdusha, all that you don't say. You say just the Pasuk. You say Kadosh, 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 Hashem, Tzvakas, Meichel, Aretz, Kvedei, Baruch, Kvedei, Hashem, Em Kaimai, right? You say Kadosh, Baruch, and Yimlich. Yimlich, Hashem, La'elam, L'Kayatzim, they're so. And you say the Amen of you say Baruch Hu. Chazan is saying to everybody, Baruch Hu Hashem HaMavarech, you say. You also say Amen to Birkas HaTorah. Okay? Person getting Aliyah. And if they say Moedim, you say the words Moedim Anachnu Lach. Those are the things that you answer in Birkas Krishma. Let me see if there's anything else. Again, Amen Yeshmei Rabba, Amen of Damin Ba'alma, Kadosh Baruch Yimlich, Ata Kadosh, and Shemei Tefillah. Amen of Birkas Koyanim, but if it's only real Koyanim, which is also the Raisa. Okay? Baruch Hu, we said, Amen of the brachas of Birkas HaTorah and of Haftarah. And if you're called to a Torah, that's a sensitive spot. If you're called to the Torah and you don't go up, Ferta Shalaf and Yochsin, it's a balagan. You go up to the Torah, but you don't read with the Chazan, you make the brachas of her. Or if there's no Bal Koira, you're allowed to go up and read the Torah. And one bracha that you're allowed to make is you hear a Ram. Because that's not going to happen afterwards. You're going to miss the bracha. It's a mitzvah beres. Masha'in, if you needed to go to the bathroom, even in Psukei de Zimra, then I saw this Machlokes about this. But even in Psukei de Zimra, there's a day that Kitz Shulchan Aruch writes you should say Asher Yatzar later. You could say it later, until the next time you're in the bathroom. I saw recently there's a between our poskim that hold it, you should say it in Psukei de Zimra. You should stop there. But actually, so anything similar to Birkas Krishma, on that caliber, Krishma and Birkas Krishma, the only things you stop are Dvarim Shebekdusha, like Kadosh Baruch Yim, like Baruch Hu, and Damirim Ba'alma, Amen Yeshmei Rabba, Ata Kadosh and Shemei Tefillah, those Amens, Birkas HaTorah, and the words Moedim Anachnu Lach, things that are mamish, like we said, Ram and Barak. What's similar to Birkas Krishma? The middle of the brachas arukos. We said by the beginning and the end of the bracha, which is like brachas ketzaros, you don't stop for nothing. But in the middle, for example, the middle of Asher Yatzar, Baruch Tashem L'kein Achal Asher Yatzar Zadam Machach Mavar B'Nei Kav Nekavim. This whole part, Baruch Nekam Nekam Chalum Chalum Gal V'Yodol V'Nei Chizuk V'Decha. Over there, you could say Kadosh Baruch Yimlech. Over there, you could say Amen on Shemei Tefillah and Ata Kadosh. Similar to this is also after the first Yehi Ratzon, before the second Yehi Ratzon, before you go away from the Eibishter, before taking the steps back, before saying the second Yehi Ratzon. On Shabbos, between Gal Yisrael and Shmoneh Esrei, for whatever reason, between Shal Yad and Shal Rosh of Rashi, it's not been bracha l'asiyah. We said the bracha l'asiyah you don't stop for nothing. But here, you made a bracha and you started doing the mitzvah. You started already putting Shal Yad. Between Shal Yad and Shal Rosh, you answer Amen. And the Alter Rebbe is very clear, you're going to have to make a Al Mitzvah Tefillin. On Shal Rosh. But still, you have to answer Amen and then make the second bracha. You have, in the Makom Sha'amru that you're allowed to say Amen, you have to say Amen. So that's the second category. Places that it's hard to stop. Or like we said, a bracha aruka. So, for example, in the middle of Yishtabach, or the beginning of Baruch Sha'amar, the middle of the bracha aruka, it also starts and ends with the Baruch. And then between Kaddish and Baruch Hu, between Baruch Hu and Yotzer Oyer, good. These are places that are hard to stop, and we stop just for Dvarim Chamor. Then there's places that are lighter to stop. That's in Psukei de Zimra. Psukei de Zimra, because like I said, it's the context is benching the Eibishter. You stop for obviously all the Dvarim Shabbat that we mentioned, Dvarim Chamor, but you also stop for all Amens. Yeah, someone saying Amen Amen. Anything. Every Amen, you have to respond that you believe in what he's saying, or that it should become true. One of the two pshatim. If the call is saying Shema Yisrael, you answer Shema Yisrael with them. That you believe in them. You say the whole nusach of Nakdishach v'Na'aritzach in the middle of. You say the whole nusach of Moedim D'Rabbanan. And if you're called to Aliyah, you say the whole. You read the whole Kriyas HaTorah with him. That's in Psukei de Zimra. And therefore, and this is actually, you should know, this similar to Psukei de Zimra on that caliber is Rabbeinu Tam between Shal Yad and Shal Rosh, for example. you already said the bracha on Rashi. So between Shel Yatzer Rosh, you should make a hasek ba'avaya achas, but over there you're allowed to. Another example is by Ma'ariv, because the lashon before Shmoneh Esrei is Shomer Zame Yisrael Ad, it's not Gal Yisrael. Therefore, there's no union of Smichas Geula L'Tfilah, and therefore it's also on the caliber of Psukkah Zin, where you could say Nakdishach over there. How do you say Nakdishach? When you buy Ma'ariv, you're allowed to say there's no Rabbanon either. But all the other things that you're allowed to say, there's no Kriyas Torah, but you're allowed to say Shema with the Tzibur, for example. You're holding, you hear another minyan now saying Shema, you say the Shema Yisrael with them, and you say Amen for any bracha. So these are the Hafsakos. To sum them up, again, just to sum them up, there's the place that's very chamor. Over there you don't stop for anything. If you're holding there, we said in brachas ktsaros, or in the brachas arukos, but by the bracha at the beginning and at the end, if you're in the middle of Shmoneh Esrei, if it's being geula l'tfilah, or you're not allowed to be mafred ben emes to be ben Hashem lekechem to emes. You're not allowed to separate for any. You never stop in the middle of Shema Yisrael. You start Shema Yisrael till v'hafta Hashem Melech Hashem Malach, and between bracha l'asiyasam there you don't stop for anything. Then there's the lowest level. We said Dvarim shebeminhag, Baruch Hu Baruch Shmoi. You never stop, and even in Psukkah Zimmer, you don't stop for Baruch Hu Baruch Shmoi. You don't stop for Shilas Shalom. You don't stop for Kaddish D'Rabbanon. You don't stop for Hashem Hashem Kel Racham V'Chanan. You don't stop all the Dvarim shebeminhag to say Asher with the Tzibur, to say Aleinu with the Tzibur. You don't say that where you're holding style, or Amen of Birkas Kainim with the Shliach Tzibur saying, or Amen on Yalav Yavai. These are minhagim. We don't stop. The middle is there's a harder place to stop, but we do stop. Those are places that are similar to Shema and Berchei Zeh. Similar to that would be in the middle of a bracha aruka, and that we stop just for Dvarim shebekdusha. For example, Kadosh Baruch Yimloich, Amen Avata Kadosh Akel HaKadosh. I'm saying this again, but it's good to remember. Amen Yeshmei Rabba, Baruch Hu Hashem Amavorach. The bracha Birkas HaTorah of someone's being Oila, bracha of Haftorah, Amen on Kohen and his brachas that are also Doiraisa, and we said a Ram, or if you're called up to the Torah to be a Bal Koira, or you're just called up to. One thing I forgot to mention is also one of the things that a Chamurim you never stop for anything is in the middle of Birkas Hamazon. I think I mentioned it the first time.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to finish off with this halacha. Very fascinating halacha. If you're in the middle of benching, it's a Doiraisa, you're not allowed to answer any amens. No, not only no amens, you're also not allowed to answer the amens that the one making the zimun makes. And you could mamish be machshel people if you're doing the way to do a zimun is you start with everybody, and then you go a little slower so they all finish, and then you conclude so they say amen and start the next part. If you go a little too quick, they're going to say amen in the middle and they're not allowed to stop. Sign of the tape.